What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Sarah everyone here bringing another video. Today I'm bringing a video on Uchuu Sentai Kyuranger episode 26. That's right, episode 26 of Kyuranger. I'll tell you this for right now, I really enjoyed it. Wasn't as good as a couple of the past ones, but it was still a really good episode. And the episode's called The Dark Warrior Ophiuchus Medal. And this is a really cool episode because this shows Naga really focusing on his emotions and everything. It also leads to the Kyurangers splitting as they go to travel to the past. But we'll get into that as this episode goes on. So I wanted to give you guys a general summary of, give you guys an idea of what happened. So the episode starts off with the Kyurangers. They're fighting some endeavors and all that. And what ends up happening is and some consumer. And what ends up happening is that Naga is perplexed and not feeling right. He with this whole entire time, his whole mission when it came to being Kyuranger was to gain the ability to feel emotions and be able to smile with his friends and feel like he could get along with everyone that way. And the thing is that he still hadn't been able to accomplish anything that he had hoped to accomplish from the get-go. And so he was really feeling, this not very happy with how little progress he had made in becoming someone who could express his emotions. And the Kyurangers are in a battle, and he's not moving, and he's supposed to control the left leg of Kyutamajin. So what ends up happening is the Kyurangers are like, "It's alright, Naga, we'll just separate." And so then at that point, what ends up happening is that the Kyurangers turn Kyutamajin into Kurano, Ryoteo, and Gigantohoho. And then you also have Washi Pinks. You also have the Washi Voyager and the Tenbin Voyager being used, which is Gold and Pink's Voyager. So all those end up fighting against these endeavors and the consumer and eventually what ends up happening is that you see Naga, he's not very happy. At the same time, we end up seeing Akiba, who I'm trying to say the name right, but she is the Vice Shogun. That's the female Vice Shogun from Dark Matter, and she sees that he's having trouble with his emotions, and she feels that she has the ability to separate them and create problems for them. So she obviously keeps a close eye on Naga because she thinks that she can do something with his current state of dissatisfaction and bitterness. So what ends up happening is that the Kyurangers do eventually go back to their base, and Sho mentions to them, it's gonna take us a little bit of time, and we're gonna have to figure things out regarding transportation, and we still need to work things out before we can travel to the past, so you might as well take a break. So at that point, what ends up happening is that all the Kyurangers are gonna go take a break. They're gonna go have a barbecue, and Sueda's gonna make it. And what ends up happening is that they end up celebrating all the good things that have happened and everything, and what do you call it? Naga isn't doing so well. He's still upset even when they celebrate, what happens is that Hammy goes up to him and tries to move and puts her hands on his face, trying to make him smile. And what ends up happening is that she's like, you don't need to rely on Naga. You should just be able to do it yourself. I get that you have that you care a lot about balance. Sorry, Naga. I mean, what am I saying? Naga, you don't need to rely so much on balance. You should be able to do things on your own when it comes to this emotional stuff. And the thing is that he's lived a life where he's focused so much so on balance as a guide and a resource to gaining the emotions that he wants to have and be able to be like everyone else. And the thing is that it doesn't really help matters that she says that, but what can you do? And At the same time, what ends up happening later is the what do you call it? We end up seeing Akibanba show up with some endeavors, and what ends up happening is that Akibanba ends up making the people in the area show their emotions in full, and these emotions are like extremely negative ones that seem ridiculously silly, but in many cases still are a way of how people are acting, and the people of the area end up rioting. But at the same time, Akibanba ends up talking to Naga, and she ends up mentioning to him that I know your secret. I know that you want to feel emotion and all this. And she says, I think I can unlock it for you. And she basically is tempting him with these emotions and making him realize maybe I have an easy way out of finding my emotions and everything like that if I go to her. But at the same time, obviously it's a question of do you trust her? But in his case, he's desperate. He's really desperate. But he doesn't immediately commit to what she says. Instead, she does end up fleeing, and the Endeavors do end up fighting as well. Well, actually, yeah, they kind of do. Yeah, they fight a little bit, but eventually, Hammy ends up talking to Naga, and then the others end up talking to each other about, Naga. And the thing is that they're all told about how on Naga's planet, the people there lived in an endless war, and the thing that allowed them to end their war was that they got rid of emotion, and it was a secret that they had held back in themselves so that the emotions within them would not create these endless wars. But the thing is that he still wants emotion, and at the same time, this creates an issue. So eventually, Naga can't take anymore, and Naga ends up using his stasis ability, to freeze Hammy in place, then release the stasis and leave her in a state of trauma. And at that point, Naga ends up running off to go to Akibanba, and ends up talking to Akiba, and Akiba ends up using her ability to release the emotions, bringing forth an extreme dark energy. And what ends up happening is that following this, we also see the Kyurangers have to find Naga, but at the same time they find out that they have to deal with the rioting people. And what ends up happening is that Kotaro and Garo end up traveling to the town, and they end up using Akiyotama to help the people that were upset with their haircuts. Even Garo gets a crazy mohawk situation, which was interesting. We also see Raptor uses music to make the people happier, and the music that she uses is actually the Kyurangers end theme, which is kind of funny to see them dance to it. At the same time, Champ ends up using the one that allows for sleep for their enemies. Typically, in this case, Champ uses it to cause the people to fall asleep. And so there's a couple of those, and eventually they do regroup. But then following this, the Kyurangers end up meeting Akiba and Naga. And Naga doesn't look like he's in the best shape, but he mentions to them, Hammy, you told me that I should be able to take care of myself, and this is what I'm choosing to do here. And they're all mentioning these different points and making them all feel guilty, but she particularly feels guilty because she was the one that basically made it out like he had to do things on his own in a way, even though in reality that their whole purpose is to be a team, and doing that kind of isn't really a positive way of talking to him, especially since he's not someone that really has a really good control over his emotions and everything. And eventually what ends up happening is that Naga gets the full powers that Akiba releases from him, and this leads to him getting this dark robe and becoming Ophiuchus Metal, which is his dark form. And what ends up happening is that he gains this new dark form. He has like this like makeup look on his face, and he's wearing this robe and all that, and he ends up his Saiza blaster, which is his changer, ends up transforming, and it becomes this dark silver combination, like this black and silver almost combination that that then also changes his Kyotama to a dark Kyotama. It's called Dark Kyotama. And he ends up using the Dark Kyotama in the new Saiza blaster, and he transforms, and he gets this new like robe and this scarf situation around his neck, and it's all dark and all that, and where his the emblem for the like the star symbol typically is in the chest, I believe an eye symbol shows up, which relates to his powers and all that. And he ends up fighting the Kyurangers, which you have to understand. Who he's fighting is Spada, Lucky, Hammy, Tsurugi, and Stinger, and he's fighting all of them. And what ends up happening is at one point, Naga ends up using the eye to release these crazy powerful long distance beams of energy that end up dealing tons of damage to them. Lucky even tries to block an attack that Naga was going to use to destroy Hammy, and that ends up happening. But then following this, Naga does do an amazingly powerful slash. And I'll just tell you this much right now, he looks amazingly cool, but he's evil, obviously. But he's supposed to be more powerful in this form, and what ends up happening is that they all get damaged a lot, and eventually Naga goes off with Akiban, and the Endeavors are left to attack the Kyurangers, and the Kyurangers use their galaxy attacks, which is their finishers, to take out the Endeavors without much effort. But then they end up going back to the Orion and discussing what they have to do now. And their biggest fear is what will Balance say, because obviously Balance and Naga are the closest of anyone. And Balance at first tries to put on a face and come across as no big deal, but in reality, he says, I have one selfish request, which is that I want to stay behind and try to get back a Naga. And what ends up happening is that following this, Lucky says that he wants to stay behind. Hammy says, so it's Balance. Lucky says that he wants to stay behind. Hammy says that she wants to stay behind, and she feels guilty, especially. And then Garo, of course, because he has that closeness to Lucky, wants to stay behind, and Kotaro as well. In the meantime, Tsurugi, Champ, Stinger, Spada, Raptor, and Sho are going to travel to the... Is that right? I think it's all of them. All the others basically are going to travel to the past to find out what exactly happened to Daramata. So basically they're splitting the team almost completely in half. In this case, obviously, 5 of which are going to stay in the past, not including Naga. And then the other 6 will travel to the future. No, 6 will travel to the past. 5 will stay where they are and try to get back Naga. And that's how they're going to do it. And it makes sense because the show's pretty good about splitting things up. So what ends up happening is that they commit to that. The Kyurangers that are going to stay in the present, stay in the present. The ones that are going to that are going to go to the past. Raptor ends up using the Horiglam Kyotama to bring them to the past. So overall, I'd say this was definitely a good episode. It was really meant to just set up things and obviously have a reason for for half the team to stay in the past and half the team to stay in the future, stay in the present time. And it's good in some ways because if they had the full team going to the past, it would be a little too much. And the thing that's good about the show is that they tend to not make it where you have every single teammate always fighting, because then you limit how much story can be made, and with 12 members on a team, it really creates an issue. So it's good that they split them up. As far as things go for the preview for episode 27, 27 doesn't look like, I would say, a filler, but it almost is a filler in a way. It seems like what it is that the Endeavors are going to show up on the Orion, and the Kyurangers are going to have to deal with them in the past. And the thing is that they're going to have all these situations with them, and the whole episode's going to be focused on dealing with the Endeavors, and then the following episode most likely will bring the Kyurangers off the ship and finally move them into position to actually learn what exactly happened to Don Ramage, because that episode sort of sounds like another, I almost want to say another setup episode where it's just sort of like, let's have another kind of almost filler situation where we're just giving more background and context to things. But again, I'd love to know your guys' opinions. Did you guys enjoy episode 26? Do you think that Naga looks cool in his new metal form? Leave your comments below, and also, what do you think of Akiban? Do you think that she's an interesting Vice Shogun? Leave your comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So, guys, I'm Crazy Scar 1, and bye, guys.